sure can read it. So give me 1 second here as I set up. I'll just be 1 minute here as I set this up for presentation. So I'll just be a minute while I set this bad chicken up. Bear with me, please, as I set up this live stream here. Just take a second here. Hopefully this bad chicken is able to lock in. Let's hope it does. Let's hope it's able to lock in here. Hopefully the cord will be able to keep it from turning too much. There we go. Now we got some, let me see how that works like that. All right, we're gonna get into this. We're gonna get into some pretty heavy detail today. I gotta do a couple more setups here before we continue. Stay with me for 1 second. I got a couple things I gotta do here super duper fast, and then I could probably bring you guys a little closer. Oh, son of a, would you look at that? Sorry about that, but just bear with me here. Hopefully this locks in place here. Hopefully that stays there. Give me 1 second. Try to get this thing to stay with the cord. I will be right. Oh, dear God in heaven, please stay right there for me. Okay, so, okay. I wish I could figure out how to get this thing to stay properly. I'm gonna go into some really big detail today. Some really big detail. This will be the 1984 case here. Okay. So here we go here. I think I'm just gonna stick it right in it. That's what I'm gonna do. Probably bring you guys a little closer, but I guess I could just go like this. You can go like that. We're not gonna be going over any of these cases right here. And I'm just gonna stick it. That's what I'm gonna do. I have no choice here. I hate to do that, but I have no choice. White. And we still have New York versus Delta, 81. Yeah. Hopefully, like this. Okay. Black and green road blade. And there's some more. And then, okay. Okay. Now we can go like this. Okay. Okey dokey. Let's see what we got here. Okay. So there's that. Okay. Now I think I can bring you guys a little bit closer here as we go over a few of these things here. We're gonna go into some pretty heavy detail today about case law. We're gonna go into some pretty heavy stuff about what's called the good faith exception to the exclusionary rule. And what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna make sure that I can see what we're doing here. So I'll have like 3 phones on me as I do this. So just bear with me 1 second. We are live. Give me 1 second here. Even that one's backwards. What we're doing here, so I'll have, okay. So a little bit staticky. It's a little grainy. All right, but let me zoom in here. I'm gonna pop this bad chicken out. You guys let me know if the phone dies on me here, because I'm not gonna be able to see it. I'll be able to see a little bit. Oh man. I don't know if this is gonna work how I want it to work. I'm gonna try to get it to work how I want it to work. Stay with me here. Stay with me here. So it has to actually go, like, this bad chicken has to turn all the way around. Okie dokie. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay. And then that thing's gonna go like that. And then we'll turn this light on right here. No. Sorry. Give me 1 second. I'm still fixing some stuff here. I'll get it all fixed up though. Okay, so let me just fix this thing real quick here. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. But you never do know, to be honest, especially when you're going live. It's like people think this is easy. It's so hard. Going live is really hard. It is not an easy thing to do. Okay, so let's see what we got here. All right. Okay. So now we're gonna really dig into what's called the good faith exception. Now you guys can see it. You'll be able to see the board and it won't be backwards. So give me a 5x5 if you guys can hear me all right. And we're gonna get into this. Grab another phone. Okay, cool. Great. Okay, so there's gonna be a slight delay here because I have to make sure that I can keep this phone. I got all these phones. Okay, there it is. Okay, I can see myself. I can see what you guys can see. Great. Let me lower this down real fast. One more slight adjustment. Okay, that should have locked it down right there. Okay, let me hit this light real quick so you guys can see me. There it is. Now you guys should be able to see me okay. And today we're gonna be going over the good faith exception. And essentially what the good faith exception is it's a way to go around the exclusionary rule. You guys may have heard of the exclusionary rule from the 1961 case of Mapp versus Ohio, but that's not the original exclusionary rule. The original exclusionary rule is going to come from the 1914 case of Weeks. And that exclusionary rule is going to be based on your Fourth Amendment. Your Fourth Amendment, which is right here over my shoulder. So it's kind of hard. I have to keep this camera facing this way so that you guys can read the words on the screen. And if you can't read them, then I'm really not doing you a good service by teaching you if you can't read the words on the screen. I actually flipped the camera and I put it on DLZ clips for the first presentation I did for Constitution headquarters. As you guys know, I'm working on a board game, and what happened was I have to get a purchase order. So it's gonna take a little bit of time for the board game, but just stay with me. I'm not gonna stop because we don't stop. Put it in the comment section for me, please. We don't stop. Okay, now let me plug this in. Awesome. There we go. Okay, so let's go over a couple things. So let's go over the Fourth Amendment real quick. And the reason why I want to do this is because I want you guys to truly understand the power of the Fourth Amendment. As you can see, I've got it in frame right there. I don't know if you can read it because my head's in frame. Let me see if I move my head, if it focuses for you guys. But the Fourth Amendment is the right of the people to be secure in their person, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures. Do you see it right there? It says the Fourth Amendment is the right of the people to be secure in their person, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or things to be seized. So you guys see that, right? So that's your Fourth Amendment right there. So do me a favor, take your finger and double tap on your screen, double tap on your screen for me, hit the like button, and then put in the comment section OTBO, which stands for Overturn Terry versus Ohio. Okay, so now let's get into it here. So in the very beginning, if we go back, I showed you guys the Fourth Amendment on the wall, but the Fourth Amendment starts off back here, right here. In the very beginning of the structure of our country, the Fourth Amendment was the Bill of Rights was put into the Constitution in 1789. There was no Bill of Rights until Patrick Henry and James Madison got together and said, we are not going to have this Constitution ratified unless we have a Bill of Rights established. And we all know today from watching what this government has done that without that Bill of Rights, we would become a despotic, tyrannical police state, prison state, death state long before we did now. Because now we're in a police state, prison state, death state. Put a one in the chat if you know for a fact we are living in a police state. If you are 100% sure that you can't drive to 7-Eleven without a cop pulling you over and using Terry versus Ohio's reasonable articulable suspicion to find a reason to pull you over, and then using Pennsylvania versus Mims to drag you out of your car, pat you down, search your car, it's become a complete tyrannical police state, prison state, death state. And we know that for a fact. Do you guys double tap on the screen, hit the like button, hit the like button. There's only 47 likes and there's 200 people, so double tap on your screen. Okay, so the Fourth Amendment is the right of the people to be secure in their person, houses, papers, and effects. And that particular Fourth Amendment is not going to be upheld until the 1914 case of Weeks, which is going to be right here. Make sure you guys can see that okay. I'll check my phone and double check. So in the 1914 case of Weeks, it's a unanimous Supreme Court decision that they say that you can't just search and seize somebody without having a warrant, without going through the due process, Fifth Amendment, to ensure that the Fourth Amendment is going to make sure that you don't get an unreasonable search and seizure. Now, it's a unanimous decision, 9-0. All 9 Supreme Court justices vote that there should be an exclusionary rule where any evidence that's obtained during an illegal search is called fruit of the poisonous tree, and it's completely illegal. And they can't allow that evidence to be submitted into your court hearing. You don't have to be held accountable for evidence that they find where it was captured through violating your Fourth Amendment right to be free of unreasonable searches and seizures. And they call that the exclusionary rule in 1914. It doesn't become fruit of the poisonous tree until the 1961 case of Mapp versus Ohio. So then what happens here is we go from Weeks, 1914, end up going to here, to the Silverthorne Lumber Company in 1920. In 1920, the Silverthorne Lumber Company, what it does is it upholds the Weeks holding of the exclusionary rule, and it says that you can't, the exclusionary rule is a valid thing, and you can't just decide that you're going to search somebody because you want to and then take that evidence and put it into their court case. The exclusionary rule is upheld, and guess what? In the Silverthorne Lumber Company, this rule is unanimous, 100% uphold it. All the judges say that you cannot just have somebody searched and take their and get evidence against them and then use it in court. It upholds the 1914 case of Weeks. Okay, so now, of course, we're going to end up going to the 1961 case of Mapp versus Ohio, which is on this board here, right here, the 1961 case of Mapp versus Ohio. We can see that case right here. Now, for the first time right here, when Dolores Mapp's home is ransacked and searched without a warrant, then it goes to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court's going to make the decision that they're going to call it the exclusionary rule in Mapp versus Ohio. It's not just the exclusionary rule, it's called the fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine. And they're going to say that you absolutely cannot take evidence that you get and use it in court because it's fruit of the poisonous tree. Do you follow? It's fruit of the poisonous tree. And that's what Mapp versus Ohio specifically does. I wish I had a better way to do this. Maybe I'll try OBS for the next one. Now, everything is going just fine, and the Supreme Court justices are upholding our rights to be free of unreasonable searches and seizures. And this is happening now. We saw 1914 unanimous, we saw Silverthorne Lumber Company 1920, and then we see in 1961 Matt versus Ohio. That's going to make it so they create it even further, not just the exclusionary rule, but it's fruit of the poisonous tree. So they're really, the Supreme Court justices are holding their oath to the Constitution, and they're upholding your Fourth Amendment right. What is the job of the Supreme Court? The job of the Supreme Court is to determine if legislation passed by Congress and then signed by the president, if that legislation is constitutional or not. And then the job of the Supreme Court is to determine if the government, the police specifically, if the police raid you or arrest you, if they've done it in the proper function to respect and uphold the Bill of Rights. And so this is the very basic understanding of the Constitution. And I can go more into detail on that, but right now I just want to go into the exclusionary rule. Now the exclusionary rule, I'm sorry, I'm just going to go over the good faith exception, which is going to counteract the exclusionary rule. It's going to fly in the face of the exclusionary rule. And for this, we have to go up right here. Got to go up here to the 1984 case of Leon versus United States. Let me see what you guys can see. So in the 1984 case, you see where that yellow tack is? In the 1984 case of Leon versus United States, this is a case where Leon is searched. I can't, it's just really hard because I can't see what you guys see, so I'm trying my best here. I've got a phone that shows what you guys can see. Okay, cool. So in Leon versus United States, this is where they get a warrant for Leon's home. Let me see from the backside here. There we go. I should really take some string and put it around there. I think that I will. Just real fast here. Will you just bear with me for 1 second? I'm gonna make this a little bit better for you guys. Cool. Now, if you want to learn how our rights have been circumvented, how our rights have been completely stripped away from us, then you have to take a look at what's called the good faith exception that was created in 1984 with, I believe that's going to be the Burger Court. Yeah, it's going to be the Burger. Warren Burger is going to be the Supreme Court justice, the head of the Supreme Court, from 1969 until 1986. And Warren Burger is going to lead the charge to create what's called the good faith exception for police. So if you guys are unaware, in the 1980s, there was a big crack epidemic in America, and police officers were violating people's rights all over the country. And what was happening is it was going to court, and the cases were getting thrown out. They were violating the rights of people and in the name of we're looking for drugs, because in 1982, Ronald Reagan had declared war on drugs. And then what he did is he created the for-profit prison system, and down the line we go. So now let me show you something here that's going to be super important so that you understand. Let me see what you guys can see. I got to get a better system. I'll try OBS next time. So in the 1984 case of Leon versus United States, let me ask you guys a question. I'll give you a little background, and then I want to ask you guys a question, and I want you guys to answer this for me, okay? So, do you consider yourself a conservative Supreme Court justice kind of person, or do you consider yourself a liberal Supreme Court justice kind of person? And go ahead, I can see the comments here. Go ahead and put in the comment section, do you consider yourself a liberal Supreme Court justice person, or do you consider yourself a conservative Supreme Court justice person? I consider myself a constitutional Supreme Court justice kind of person. But in the 1984 case of Leon versus United States, it's going to be a 6-3 vote. And just take a guess right now. I'm reading some of the comments here. Thanks for the super chats. I have not seen any of these come in. I'm trying to get this done. And there's only 86 likes and almost 300 people here. So you guys got to double tap on that screen for me. Double tap on the screen. I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to record this privately and then air it live, because it's such a hard bounce back and forth between seeing the video, seeing the comments. It's just really, really hard. Thanks, Claudette. Appreciate that. Okay. So in 1984, in the Leon case, so Leon, they get a warrant for Leon's house. And then what happens is they search his house, but the actual warrant itself is a defective warrant. And so Leon is going to be, if you take a look, Leon is going to be right up there. We see Leon right here? You see Leon, United States versus Leon? This case right here is what creates the biggest free-for-all for the cops in U.S. history. It's so absolutely unbelievable that they completely and utterly stripped away our exclusionary rule. So Leon was at home, and he was searched for a warrant that was later found to be defective. So they went to Leon's home, and they had a warrant. They had an affidavit from somebody saying that Leon was a dope dealer. So they went into Leon's home, and they searched his house. And then they found later that the warrant itself, the affidavit that was filed with that warrant in the Leon case, can I zoom? Yes, I can. Bad chicken. Yes, I can. Son of a holy snarling sneak shit. I sure can. That's amazing. I wish I could figure out how to lock that bad chicken down, though. This is really rough as far as I'm concerned. Really rough. Could be way better, but it's just the simple fact of technology. So they go to his house, they get a warrant, and they find later that the warrant is defective. But because police raided his home in good faith, the drugs that they found against Leon are going to be admissible. Now, this is in January of 1984, and then if you scroll up just a little bit, you see that yellow dot at the top where it says Massachusetts versus Shepard? Right there, do you see that? Now, this is going to be the extension of the good faith exception, that the cops are working in good faith, and all the cops have to say is, yeah, we're working in good faith. It's a horrible, horrible holding. But in Shepard, the reason for the arrest is Shepard was searched from a defective warrant, completely defective, that the officers believed was valid. So in the Shepard case, when he gets searched, they go to his house and they search his house, but the warrant isn't even valid. And guess what happens? His case goes all the way up to the Supreme Court. And in 1984, the Supreme Court says that the cops worked in good faith, that they thought the warrant was valid. And so then Shepard is arrested, tried, convicted, appeals, get to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court rules against him. That's what happens. So then as we keep going down the line, we go to Illinois versus Kroll, which is right next to it. Do you see that yellow dot right there? This is Illinois versus Kroll right here. It's Cruel. It's Illinois versus Cruel. And so the reason for the search for this is that they go search a wrecking yard. And under an Illinois state statute, they say that if you are, the Illinois state statute that was passed in 1983, and this is a 1987 case in Illinois versus Cruel, that the Illinois state statute said that they could warrantlessly search the books of wrecking yards where they crushed up cars and stuff like that because they had said a propensity for criminality. And so when they go and search Cruel's books, they find cars that aren't registered properly, so they arrest Cruel and they charge him. And then they later find the state law that was created by Illinois to be unconstitutional, that you can't warrantlessly search the books of wrecking yard companies just because you think there's criminality could be afoot. But that doesn't matter because Kroll goes to jail. He gets arrested and goes to jail for stolen cars on the wrecking yard property. And then when it goes to the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court decides to uphold Kroll's conviction under the good faith exception, that the cops who had searched that rec yard books, they did it in the good faith that the Illinois state statute was constitutional. Even though the state statute was found to be unconstitutional, they still allowed Kroll to go to jail and to be arrested. Now that's going to shift on a dime here real quick. It's going to shift on a dime real quick. And we're going to go to Arizona versus Evans, 1995. There it is right there. Let me see if I can get my finger in there. Forgive me, this is not the best setup, but I'm doing the best I can with what I've got. So in Arizona versus Evans, Evans is pulled over for a traffic violation. And there is a warrant in the database for Evans. And Evans is going to say, wait a minute, I don't have a warrant for my arrest. And the police are going to arrest him and then search incident to arrest from the 1973 case of Robinson versus United States. In Robinson versus United States, they're going to say that they can search you incident to arrest. That's 1973, and that's going to be 5 years after Terry versus Ohio. And in Arizona versus Evans, when they pull him over and in the databases that he has a warrant, they then search him, search it to arrest because he's got a warrant. They find chemicals on him. They arrest Evans, take him to jail, and charge him with the chemicals they found in his pocket. Now, he's going to challenge this all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court's going to say, hey, look, the cops arrested you in good faith. It's the good faith exception to the exclusionary rule, to Mapp versus Ohio, to the fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine. And so then now that we have the good faith exception that's been truly established through all of these ridiculous doctrines that none of us voted for, none of us voted for these things, you're going to get to the 2009 case of Herring right here. I can barely see it, but I think it's under Brendlin. Yeah, it is under Brendlin, right here. In Herring, and now in the Herring case, this is a very similar case, Herring is arrested on an erroneous warrant in the police database. Not only does Herring not have a warrant for his arrest, the warrant that is in the database is completely erroneous. It's no longer valid. Herring shouldn't be arrested for anything because he doesn't have a warrant for his arrest. The warrant had already been taken care of and done. But when they arrest Herring, what happens is he challenges the arrest because they search him and find drugs on him. Herring challenges all the way up to the Supreme Court. And guess what? He wins the case that the search was unconstitutional. But here's what happens. They uphold his conviction because police acted in good faith. Now, the Davis case of 2011, this case right here, this case has a bunch of bounce arounds here, and I'm going to try to give you guys the best I can on the bounce arounds here. So in the 2011 case of Davis, Davis is pulled over, and during the traffic stop, it's a search for his vehicle, and they find a firearm in his car. Now, Davis is going to be arrested, convicted, and sentenced to jail. And so Davis is like, hey, I shouldn't be arrested and I shouldn't be put to jail because they searched my car. And at the time of the search, they said that he had a warrant, but again, that warrant, I'm sorry. So in Davis, when they searched his car, they searched his car, search incident to arrest, and that is going to hinge off of the 1981 case of Belton versus New York. And this is a big one here. This is a big one. So this is why I kind of wanted to run around with you guys a little bit here. So in the 1981 case of New York versus Belton, this case right here, this is what created the idea that you could be arrested, New York versus Belton right here. In New York versus Belton, they're going to say that you can, if the cops pull you over, they can search your entire car. And that's 1981 New York versus Belton. So when Davis got pulled over in 2004, they searched his car using the Belton rule, New York versus Belton, that says that they can search any car that they pull over. Now that's going to be an extension of the 1969 case of Chille right here. Chille versus California, right there. You see Chille? So Chille, what the Chille case did is it created the wingspan rule, where if the cops pulled you over, they could search anywhere within a wingspan of your car. And they could, you guys got to double tap on the screen. There's only 120 likes and there's 400 people. You guys got to double tap on that screen for me, if you would, please. turn up my volume. Yeah, you got a probable cause. I'm a little disappointed in the setup, but that's okay. That's okay, we're gonna get there. So Chimmel's gonna be overruled by the 2009 case of Arizona versus Gant here. The 2009 case of Arizona versus Gant. This is gonna upend the Chimmel case entirely, where you can't just search someone's car because you pull them over, and that's gonna completely end that. It's gonna try to rein in the idea that you can just search someone's car when you pull them over. But the Davis case isn't quite done yet, because Davis gets convicted for having a firearm, and then they say it's the good faith exception, that the police can search your car as long as it's done in good faith. These are gonna have to be pre-recorded from now on, y'all, because it's just too choppy for me like this. And that's gonna extend into Heen versus North Carolina. The cops can make mistakes of the law, and it's still a perfectly valid arrest as long as the cop made an honest mistake of the law, that he, and it's not directly tied to Leon. Leon is not the jurisprudence for Heen, but the principles of Leon that create the good faith exception are created in Heen versus North Carolina 2014. And then it's not done, because then after that, you get the 2016 case of Utah versus Strieff right here. And in Utah versus Strieff, they say that they can do an unconstitutional stop, and as long as that stop is done in good faith, then if you have a warrant or you have drugs, then they can just pull you over unconstitutionally, and then they can arrest you, and then that's perfectly legal. And that's called the good, that's called the that's called the good faith exception by police. All right, let me fix this bad chicken now, because I'm a little bit tired of this not working how I want it to work. There it is. Cool. Cool. There we go. Just fix this real quick. There you go. Let me just fix this bad chicken real fast. Now, you won't be able to see it as well as I'd like you guys to be able to see it, and you won't be able to see the... Joseph, go to DeleteLawz.com and get a trifold, my friend. There it is. What's up with the Playboy? Now, the only problem with this is you can't read the cases. The cases are all backwards. It's a little bit frustrating, but that's okay, because now I wanted to go into some ChatGPT with you guys and talk a little bit about the Supreme Court justices, because you remember I asked you earlier if you were a conservative Supreme Court justice kind of person or you were a liberal Supreme Court justice kind of person. So we talked about this, and forgive me for the production being a little choppy. These are all gonna be pre-recorded from now on because I just can't get the production value that I want. So the 1984 case of Leon versus United States, right here. This case right here, it creates the good faith exception for police. So let me ask you a question. Do you think that conservative Supreme Court justices gave the cops a good faith exception, or do you think that liberal Supreme Court justices give the cops good faith exception? And go ahead and type in the comment section for me. Let me know. What do you think? Do you think that conservative Supreme Court justices gave cops the good faith exception, or do you think that liberal Supreme Court justices gave cops the good faith exception? I want to see what you guys do. Yeah, I know it. I'll fix this. I'm the type of guy that wants the Supreme Court voted in, not appointed. I'm with you all the way. John Travolta said, I think they both did. Jeff thinks that liberals did it. Alberta, Kimberly, and Marauder, conservative. Jeff Vacone says conservatives. Okay, and then Michael Mertz says liberal gave the good faith exceptions. Mikey B said, I don't trust either one of them. And then King Soda said conservative. Gary Bryant said, DW said liberal. And then BCB said conservative. I say both said Claudette. They both did, said Maddie. Driving but good show, thanks, appreciate that, conservatives. Both liberal. Okay, so let me just give you the hard tax. If you guys got to double tap the screen, 450 people, double tap that screen for me, and I'll tell you the answer right here. I got it laid out. I'm going to teach it to you right now. You're going to learn something today that you didn't learn yesterday. So do me a favor, double tap on your screen for me so that I can try to keep this bad chicken going. So it was a 6-3 decision. It was a 6-3 decision. And in 1984, the court was primarily dominated by conservatives. And what happened was these 6 Supreme Court justices here voted to give the police a good faith exception to the law. And these liberal justices right here voted against giving police the good faith exception. These liberal Supreme Court justices voted to uphold your Fourth Amendment right and to uphold the exclusionary rule, uphold through to the poisonous tree doctrine. Whereas these 6 conservative Supreme Court justices, they voted to give your rights to the police. And this is why I always tell you that I'm a man without a party, because I couldn't vote for a Republican president, because a Republican president is going to appoint more conservative Supreme Court justices. And what do we know throughout the history of time? What's 100% factual? That when you go down this list of Supreme Court justices, when you go down this list of case law, what you find is that the conservative Supreme Court justices completely and utterly they screw us over. And I'm talking about in every regard. I'm talking about gun rights. I'm talking about First Amendment rights to speech, Fourth Amendment right to unreasonable searches and seizures, Fifth Amendment right to due process, Sixth Amendment right to a fair public speedy trial, Ninth Amendment right to rights you may not know, 10th Amendment rights to states' rights over federal rights, 14th Amendment right, your right to have due process and be considered a citizen if you're born here. So there's all these historical facts of conservative Supreme Court justices completely and utterly screwing us. And I could take it even further if you want. I can go all the way down this list. Now I'm trying to give you guys visuals so that you can learn with me, so that I can keep you up to speed without just kind of overwhelming you with a bunch of facts. But again, in Shepard versus Massachusetts in 1984, you're going to have the same thing. You're going to have conservative Supreme Court justices who uphold the good faith exception for police. And that's the people in here. The people in here, we are against our rights being stripped away from us. Most people in here do not support cops. We don't support law enforcement or the idea that there should be law enforcers in our country. And that's just the cold hard fact. That's just, I don't, so this is the reason why I don't vote Republican, because they appoint conservative Supreme Court justices that fuck us over. And that's an absolute, total, complete fact. You know what I'm saying? That's funny. 27P. Did AI create a blend of Matt Damon and Reacher? That's funny. You know, when I was in jail last year, they called me Reacher. That's really funny. That is really... Death Angel's here. What's going on, my friend? How you doing? Good to see you, man. It is a uniparty. Gregory McKay. Yeah, the board's a lot bigger, Greg. And, you know, I'm sorry, but these are going to be... A lot of these are going to be pre-recorded from now on, because I'm not getting the production value that I want when I go live. And then I'll teach some live stuff, but I think I'll teach individual lessons, and I'll make it a lot faster. So then I don't want to get too political here, because whether we have Biden in office or Trump or Bush or Reagan or Obama, they all consistently work against our civil liberties, work against our civil rights. But since we have the dumpster fire in office, I can just show you a couple things, and let's go back to it. So where's it going to be? I believe it's 1969, the Prince case. Is it Prince? Is it 19... Tinker versus Iowa. Great. I may have covered up some things, and I wanted to be able to show you guys a couple things, but I'm just really unhappy with the quality of this presentation and what I'm going to be able to teach you guys on a live stream, because I really want you guys to be able to learn this. It's the reason why I've took 6 months to build the board game, which is on my website, DeleteLawz.com. You guys can grab that board game pre-order, because it's going to go up to $99.99. That's what's going to happen with that board game here pretty quick. So I just wanted to jump in for a few minutes here. I guess we've only been live for 40 minutes. But what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to end this live stream, and then I'm going to go live again from my computer. And I may just get a video of this board and kind of be able to run back and forth on a video, because I just don't feel like I can get the quality of presentation that I want to get here. So, all right, with that being said, I'll take any questions about the good faith exception rule that was created by the conservative Supreme Court in 1984. You know, Warren Burger and William Rehnquist, two of the biggest pieces of shit in U.S. history. Like, if you understood what I understood, I would teach you, And I will teach you over the next several months exactly who Warren Berger was, exactly who William Rehnquist was, because they were two of the biggest pieces of shit you could ever understand. And I'm gonna teach it to you. Yeah, Vadin, 99, that's how much a good board game costs. If you go price them out, I priced my board game at $59.99, but it might be a little too low. I'm not sure yet, but I haven't raised the price yet. I haven't raised the price yet. So I'm gonna teach you guys, I promise. I have to teach people so that they understand the rights that we've lost, so they understand why they wanna stand for those rights and fight for those rights. And that's why I created this board game. And I was supposed to have a meeting today, but I had court this morning. And court this morning, you know, I have some things in place in court I have some deals with different people that I'm working right now, so I can't really say anything about what court was, but I'll just tell you that hopefully it's going the way that I want it to go right now. So yeah, there it is. There it is. It went well. It went well. Started off with the judge completely wanting to go against me, and then by the time it was done, hopefully he changed his mind. And I told the judge today that I have not spoken about any court proceedings on my YouTube channel, and I have not. So that's the first mention I've ever done. That's the first mention I've ever done. All right, listen, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna end this live stream. I'll come back on live in about 15 minutes here. I'm just going to prepare a little bit, and I'll be back on by about 2:30, 2:45. So you guys come back with me, and I'll see you guys on the next one. For people who super chatted, thank you. I didn't see any of them. The camera was faced the other way, but I'm going to make this presentation so it fucking rocks. I just have to do a couple things. All right, I'm gonna get the flock out of here. Soy Leal, thanks for coming. I'll see you guys on the next one. Later, Gators. Mikey B.